Doc here from North America. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Alrighty.
Is it okay to eat avocado every day?
Is it okay to eat avocado? Morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Okay, there we go. So, what we really see here this morning is the same as we have been, and that is we look at the Swiss to take a flavor, a feel, what is going on with the dollar today. What is going on with that dollar? Anyway, you can see right there, it's down a little bit from the last 2 days. So that means the dollar is down and the Swiss is up in value. That's how we watch this whole thing. It's a lot easier than watching some of the other products. They all have different characteristics against the dollar. Euro against the dollar, so forth. British pound. British pound's very firm. But what it comes down to is it likes to get a nice flavor of this, and it kind of emphasizes the strength that we're seeing in the Swiss, and at the same time we're seeing it also in the cable. Now you can see our weekly is trying to bounce back up here on the. You can't even see it. Let's show you what we're looking at right there. There we go. So we're looking at the Swiss against the dollar in the Chicago Quant, and then you can see it here on J4X. So we got a little red going on there. You can see the line bringing up, it's, coming up in this case here, and this is the daily. You see the same thing. We've been in a daily buy for 2 full days, holding up on the third day and not looking too weak, but we can see that they're digesting this move. Now they're probably trying to figure out what is going on. Now let's just jump over real quick to the bond market, because bonds and interest rates used to be the number one fundamental, of all decision making when it came to, currencies and everything else. Now, it's kind of left out there in limbo. But let's just show you what the 30-year looks like after that wild move a couple days ago. You can see that's what flipped it out on Monday. They started up high and then they drove it down, and then the next day it was down even more. And today it's still down a little bit more, but they're trying to give us a little green dot at the moment. You can see the weekly down below here, just pushing down, and down right in there. What else can we say about this? I know the zero line needs to be moved up too. There's the zero line. So you can see the distance below the time manifold, this yellowish mirror image line, which we refer to as a time manifold. And so you can see the pressure is on and it's not really lightening up any. And so that's where we stand at the moment with the currencies in general. And that is that interest rates are rising. Now, like I said, forever and ever, interest rates were a factor to the fundamentals in pairs trading. But in the QE era, for the last 13 years, it's a whole different concept now, different altogether. And we'll see how that plays itself out. And what is fascinating more than that is I just saw a great article just before I started with the webinar. It says, after years of worry, LIBOR, remember the London borrowing rate, exit goes without hitch. It says it took billions of dollars and thousands of staff and countless work hours, but the transition from LIBOR worked, with the market participating in London reporting a smooth exit from the discredited reference rate. Now, for eons, the LIBOR rate in London was just the key to interest rates. That's why we bring it up. That was LIBOR was, they set interest rates, and it's it was the total reference point to what interest rates would be across the planet. People would be in other countries and they would say, okay, and we're lending you money based off the LIBOR rate in London. It would be that way. It could be in the United States, it could be anywhere. Extensive preparations by banks and lawmakers and regulators meant that the end of the year shift away from sterling LIBOR in particular suffered few problems, at least for now. So we will delve into that. I will read this article after the webinar, and we'll get a flavor of what that's all about. Just like it took a day or two to figure out what they were doing with Turkish Lira. But I just thought I'd mention that the interest rate is the reason we're seeing what we're seeing. And you can see the characteristic even when you see this, and then you go over to J4X, you can see pretty much the reverse. Let's do it like that. There we go. See the reverse of it. You know, a spike, and then kind of, now in this case here, it started to roll over again, whereas the interest rate is still rising. And that's what we see. Now what happens when you're looking at interest rate products, in particular, how that normally works is that when the cost of the bond or an interest rate product goes down, that means interest rates are rising. And that's how that whole process plays itself out. Because we're going to take another sip of tea here. And that is pretty much the whole process in the end. All right, let's check the chat line, see if anybody has asked or said hello or done anything else. No, I don't see anything particular at the moment. All right, so from there we're going to zip over to the euro. That was me sipping the tea again too. Let's see, let's find the euro. Right there. And as you can see, the euro has been kind of leaky. You know, it keeps on moving down. Not exactly sure if there's anything we can accredit it to. I mean, we know that the euro is pressured by a lot of different factors. First of all, you got all these countries trying to work together, and they don't do too good a job about it. You know, the German economy is the pillar of the European Union, and they keep on drifting into this socialism more and more every decade. So, you know, you put those two things together and you can understand why the GDP and everything else is close to zero in Europe, if not at zero most of the time, because they don't have any real growth in the wings, you know, nothing out there saying, well, you know, we're going to be building this, that, or the other thing. Matter of fact, I heard something, was it there? I think it was in Germany. I heard yesterday or the day before that they're shutting down 3 nuclear power plants, but they're not compensating with, they don't have the capacity to compensate like with coal or oil or anything at the moment. So they're just shutting down the nuclear power plants. Again, more stress. I guess they want to live in the Stone Age. They are really punishing themselves. I guess maybe they'll never bring in another type of Hitler character again. But because it seems like it's what do you call it, self-flagellation? I mean, they just seem to beat themselves up over and over again now. I guess there's must be something going on there psychologically for a country that's that strong economically, and it can't grow. You know, I mean, there was a time it was a you know, a stalwart to capitalism. You know, I mean, they really pushed hard. You know, when it was all divided up, I guess, you know, they needed to become strong. I don't know. End result is that Europe has a real hard time with growth, and you can see this is one of the reasons why we probably see the euro languishing down here in the 111s, 12s, 13s, and so forth. You know, I guess, you know, the scare is always, will it go to par? Will it go to par? Will it just go right to 1? You know, against the dollar, that is. So you can see here, and you know, I don't complain when looking at the euro against the Turkish Lira. Boy, is that a very insightful pairs trade. But when it comes to the dollar, watching it, there doesn't seem to be any love whatsoever at all for the euro. And I don't see any fundamentals that would push anybody besides liquidity itself. You know, it's the second most active currency in the world. So that's the only thing I can imagine pushes people towards it. Let's see. So there it is. There's the euro. You see a couple days pressure there. You see it up in here, looking at our proprietary charts. Right there. Okay, got a little lift going on today, but we're still in that weakness here. You see that weakness right there. But you can see it's trying to lift up from yesterday and the day before itself from that push from the currencies, or the interest rates itself. I guess what it really comes down to is interest rates do not really represent much anymore because of quantitative easing. You know, when you have state-sponsored purchases of bonds and government bonds and corporate bonds and so forth at a clip of 60 billion a month out of Europe, and another 110 or 20, whatever the Fed is pretending the number is this week. You know, you're looking at $180 billion a month created to buy product. You know, it's not rollovers. People get confused. You know, there's a difference between buying new and rollovers. So that's the way the socialists think they can grow, is if they just create new money and then purchase whatever has to be purchased. You know, it's kind of like, I don't know if anybody knows of the story of Huckleberry Finn and whitewashing the fence versus buying the paint. This young fellow in Missouri tries to, it's an American classic by, what was his name, something Clems, Mark Twain, that's it, Mark Twain. And what happens is that this lady pays these two boys to paint her fence. And they go to the paint store, or you know, the hardware store to buy the paint, and they see that whitewash is like 20% of the cost. Whereas if they spend all the money, they barely get any, you know, they get a nice little pay out of it, but you know, it would be like 90% or 80% of what she paid them. So what they do is they buy whitewash instead. And they put whitewash on it. The problem is with whitewash, when it rains, it washes off. So the fence would go right back again to being, you know, drab, dirty, you know, so forth. And that's pretty much what quantitative easing is. It is the Mark Twain, or it's the Huckleberry Finn of finance. And that's what we were going through for the last 13 years, and we're just waiting for the rain, really. That's what it really comes down to. All right, so there we go with the euro. You can see it's trying to lift up today, even with a red dot. You can see it over here on J4X. Same situation, 3 red bars. This is still buried, just like ours is still buried here on the daily, as you can see. And let's take a look at it on a weekly basis right there. And as you can see on the Chicago quant, you know, we're holding up. We've slipped under. We've gone above a few times now in the last couple of days, and we're just holding up in that weekly buy. We're just above the 0 line. As you can see there, it's minus. No, I'm sorry. It's a plus at this point. So it's 0.00023. That's the plot 1. And you know, you can see it's holding up. It's fighting. It's trying to stay plus. We've gone under. We've gone up. You know, bounces back and forth. And I guess one day the rains will come and the whitewash will come off. All right. From there, oh, and over on the J4X too, you see it's trying to lift also. You know, it's 2 weeks in a buy, just like we are right here. Right there, 2 weeks in a buy, going on a third, and it's doing the same thing over here. It's got 2 greens, and let's see where the line is. See, the line is lifted through, like we are. So it's, you know, joining in with our mathematics, very nice. All right, now we'll drift over to the cable, which has been looking very firm. Right there. And there's the cable there. Cable is flirting with the 0.38 that we've been thinking it would do, and we thought it would try to barrel its way up to 0.50. So we'll see. You know, we've been in a daily buy for, I guess, since right here. Wasn't that line in there? So look at that. And then we'll sell there. And then we're back in the buy there. Sucking on a buff drop. So you can see that. And then it, did it go? I guess it went into the sell there for a day, right there. And now it's back into the buy again. So let's do that. There. And there. And the dots end up down there. Maybe the dots up top. Now I'm confused altogether. Look at that. The lines went up on there. All right, we'll just leave them there for the time being. And the end result is that now it's trying to climb back into the buy today. Yesterday it's in the buy. Let's see what the fact check spreadsheet says. Right there, 1 day in the buy, so we're on our second day in the buy. That's what it is right there. And 1 week in buy. And we think this is going to keep on climbing. We do think that's going to happen. And one of the things that has really stuck out in my mind is, check this out. This is the Euro GDP. Right there. And it's been in a sell for, since here. And it's been a nice long little ride down. So I was thinking, a couple of weeks in a sell, and that's going on. So I guess, the pressure is definitely on the cable to go up, and the euro to stay sideways or down. Okay, now that's the weekly. Let's see what the daily looks like. There it is on J4X. You can see it's been holding up. It never went into that 1 day sell. It just stayed up. It's been climbing and climbing. So not bad. Not bad at all. Alright, what else we got to go about this particular product? I guess that's about it. Now what we do is, from here we drift over to the Turkish Lira. Each day I always remind people that we follow the 2 Turkish Liras because it's a developed nation. It's an industrialized nation. It's part of the OEDC. There are only 35 countries in the OEDC. The United States, Great Britain, and so forth. And so, it's well worth watching for that reason alone, just to see how government policy can drive a country. And that, boy, if I was whining about the lack of growth in Europe, geez, Turkey tops that by tenfold. It's just, totally just dead. It's just dead when it comes to growth. Matter of fact, there was something I just remembered it. I saw an article last night before I went to bed about, let me see if I can find it. And it was an interesting article. I saw the headline, started to read it, and I was just too tired, and thought, okay, I'll go after it tomorrow before the webinar, and then I thought we could have this discussion, Let's see, where was it at? Let's see. There it is. I think I found it. There it is. Traders puzzled by bizarre mystery as Turkish central bank inexplicably posts unprecedented $10 billion profit. There it is. I guess that's, what can you say about that? I haven't read the article, but I can't wait to see how they take that apart, I find that to be interesting as all get out. It's just like, wow, what's that all about? $10 billion. That's that end of the year stuff I'm always talking about. They always find a way. They do. There's always some odd thing that occurs financially. It just does. So, and that's probably the most unique thing of all, Oh, I just got a message. I need to work on that. just thinking, how, what, I mean, when you really think about it, what's 10 billion now? Oh, I did see something else in the article. Before we go to Turkish Lira, let me just mention what I did see in the article before my eyes really tried to close, and that was the amount of debt. They give you insight sometimes, things that they don't really mean to do, but I saw they're in debt for like 298 billion. I don't know what I didn't know what they were talking about. I didn't get a chance to read it all, but it'll be interesting data. I'm sure that will come out that will explain some of it, and the CPI, and it'll have all kinds of wonderful things, because it's the financial media, especially the crazy public one we have that doesn't make much sense most of the time. They will find anything to keep the stories of what's going on here in America away. Let's see what it says here. It says, on December 24th, taking advantage of a rally that saw the lira almost double in value that week, while households trimmed their position by just over 100 million, it hardly put a dent in a total foreign currency deposits, which rose to 239 billion. That's what I saw. Okay, I'll have to read it, take it apart, just like we realize that what they're doing now is they're giving out free puts to investors. So I mean, that is probably the best way to describe it at this point. Is that what they've chosen to do is give out free puts. That's what they've chosen to do. So that's you don't hear many people say that, but that's exactly what they've done. They've decided to give out free puts. So that's the way they prop their currency up. In the old days, it was so much simpler. You raise your interest rates or you lower them. CPI, PPI, producer prices, consumer price indexes, and inflation, and your GDP, and so forth. Some decent policy that allowed your country to grow, usually kept your currency pretty firm. Now these days, it's a guessing game all the time. All the time. So, anyhow, let's go over to Turkish Lira now and take a peek at it. But boy, is there some interesting news out there we do want to dissect, and we will. And we'll see what that true story is about the whole event. So right there's dollar Turkish Lira. We'll put that up on the Chicago site too. Where are you? Dollar Turkish Lira, right there. All right, and as you can see, it's been climbing again. Even our work is showing it's climbing. We do get look at that. We're getting a little volatility signal today on the dollar Turkish Lira right there. It's banging the zero line for a couple days here now on the daily. Let's see what we got here. That's the daily, doing pretty much, I believe, the same thing. It's trying to hold above the dotted line here, or dashed line here, so that's pretty good. We're real close there. And then what we'll do is we're going to jump over to the Euro Turkish Lira, which I find to be much more indicative, or more accurate, describing what's going on with the Turkish Lira. There we go. And then there. You see here with the Euro Turkish Lira itself. Same situation on the daily. Now let's see what it looks like on the weekly. And you see how what it's done here on the Chicago Quant. It's flat line too. You know, just really tight in there. Look at that, just riding. It's hugging the zero line. I mean, it doesn't want to let go, and it's also having a volatility signal at the same time. We kind of thought that it would come and challenge this area here. We should probably put a dotted line in there because we do think that it's going to find a. We do believe it's going to find a. Let's put a yellow line like that. Whoa, we got a phone call from Cowboy. Yo, Cowboy, say hello to the world.
Oh, are you on the world?
I am on the world.
Oh my gosh, it's wonderful.
Hello, world.
Louis, New Jersey.
Later. So, my friend, the Cowboy, and so the end result is that you can see here it's flatlined, but it's trying to climb up in there at the same time. You see, it made a high there 3 days ago when that crazy interest rate spike occurred. So I'm thinking, you know, it's going to hesitate in that area. Maybe this is the A, we're in the big B now, and then we'll try to do a C. Maybe it'll be a higher low, something like that, you know. Remember, there are institutions and so forth now trying to figure out how to capitalize on those free puts. That's the name of the game. So I would not expect a lot of wild action at this point. That's just the dead cat bounce at the moment. You can see there. That's what this really is. It's just a dead cat bounce. I don't think there's a lot of energy in it because I don't think they know exactly how to capitalize on it yet. Because there was a couple of the policies on who would be protected. Okay, and so you have to imagine that they're going to have to do things really, really tricky to be able to trick the Turkish central bank to give them those free puts, because they were a little not clear exactly who does get the free puts, but they claimed that that's what was going to happen, is they were going to protect investors when they bought the Turkish lira and held on to it. They were going to protect those investors. So if it went, they bought it at 15, and it lost 2 or 3 handles, they were going to give them the 2 or 3 handles that they lost. So the money out there now is trying to figure out how they can capitalize on it. They have a bunch of me's, they have a bunch of docs sitting there trying to figure out the perfect arbitrage, how to lock it in, open up different accounts in different countries. It'll be some type of carry trade opportunity. Is last I thought about it hard was I think it's going to be some type of carry trade situation, but because that would be the difference between the two, really, the carry trade, I would think. But there'll be somebody will come up with a good one, and then it'll take a while for the Turkish. See that the trick is, will the Turkish government really give them that money in the end? That's the big question. So right now everybody's trying to figure it out. And then what will happen is it will look like somewhere along the line again, like everybody's on one side of the boat. And it'll lean in that direction, and that'll be the natural way to go. So we're going to be watching this again. It is amazing. It's not that we want to beat up on President Erdogan, former Prime Minister, or we want to beat up on the Turkish economy. We've not seen a developed nation since the 1930s, 1920s have this kind of crazy situation occur, right? Germany, where they just could not afford to pay the war reparations that they had agreed to pay, and so it's the same thing, except for obviously there were no nuclear weapons. So with nuclear weapons kind of spread out around the world, our wars are not as predominant anymore. Our wars are now in an economic form, and so that's how this is all going to play out. We'll see. I mean, look at this. This is going to be very interesting. Maybe it has to go another couple of weeks before they figure out exactly what they're doing. I don't know. It'll be interesting to see how this plays out, but it will be a lesson in future trading of currencies. Imagine if this worked. And the liability, the cost is not that far-fetched, really. free puts to people who hold on to your currency, and all you do is pay the difference. It's a lot cheaper in some ways. It's a kind of a logical thing, but remember they invented this concept and they developed this concept when it was trading at 6 to the dollar. So it took a lot of desperation to jump off that diving board, jump into the water. So we'll see. But I'm going to follow it because I find it fascinating on a financial level. Just totally 100% fascinating. So. All right, from there we jump over to the Canadian. And as you can see there, Canadian is lifting up today. We're pushing back into the buy after it going into the sell there a couple days ago. I guess it's right there. Can we bring that down? Guess not. And so it's been in the sell for a couple of days, and now it looks like it'll go into the buy if we can get rid of that red dot. You can see we're in a weekly sell at the same time, so this thing is not exactly doing anything more than what it normally does do. And that is just trying to figure out and so that's pretty much where it comes down to. Let's see. So now from the Canadian, when we look at the Canadian, boy, I was really happy. I was watching something last night on business news, Fox Business News, and they were saying how, and they were talking about the currencies, and they said, how the Canadian's kind of weak, and then someone said something like, we even forgot that they did have a dollar, and the result is that the conversation was, well, as the way of the Canadian dollar goes, a lot of times oil goes, and I thought, oh, that's good. I'm glad I'm not off track totally. So, if they're saying it on the news. On the news. And so, that is where we're at. All right, now, let's see. Because of this, we figure that oil might be sideways to down, and we're figuring that gold is probably doing the same thing. So let's go over and take a look at those two products, and we will see. So let's go to oil first. Right there. There is the oil. And there it is on our Chicago sideways, almost unchanged. I think it's only up about 6 cents. And you can see the weekly is holding up pretty firm there. And at the same time, the daily is holding up pretty firm. But it's not going anywhere at the moment. So we'll watch the Canadian. Maybe the Canadian will roll over since we're in that weekly sell. I'll just show you again the Canadian. It's in that weekly sell there. So maybe that baby will turn. All right, and then let's see what we got here. Message there. There we go. And then, let's see what else we got. From there, we go over to the metals complex. Let's see what they're doing there. Busy morning. People texting me all over the place. And then here comes, oh, that's the weekly too. Okay, so let's get the daily in there. Right there, kind of lifting up a little bit. Let's see what they're doing on the contract itself. Yeah, a little firmness there too at the same time. And it's in a daily sell for 3 days after that interest rate thing. And you can see the weekly is trying to climb back up here on our work. And you can see the daily is still trying to figure a way to get down into the sell. Let's see what the weekly looks like on that. Right there. There you can see the weekly is turned up just like our weekly is trying to turn up. And actually it's still in a weekly buy, I think. Let's see. That is gold, right? So no, it went into the weekly sell last week. That's what it was. So it closed in the weekly sell last week by its little hairy little number. But you can see it here now, it's trying to lift back up again So there should be a sell in here. Let's just double check that, yeah. So it should have a sell line. I'm not sure what's going on there. Oh, I missed out on it? I guess it, you know what it did? It may have just closed right on it to the zeros. So that's why. And then it should be, what is that? It should be a 3 here. And it just escaped it. That's what it was. Let me see. Because I would have had a line in there. It would have retained a line. So we're just in a daily sell and that's it. And now with it trying to lift up on the weekly, maybe the daily will finally join in. You know, we've got that issue here. We've talked about it all the time. Just hard to believe that we have 6% or 7% inflation, and at the same, even at the, they try to cut out food and energy. It's still 4% inflation. So you would think, if nothing else, interest rates should be at least at 3% right now. You know, I mean, they should be at 4%. But I mean, you know, in a quantitative era, anything is possible. Where interest rates mean almost nothing unless the government wants them to mean something. That's why the balance sheets are so outrageous at this point, just loaded, and that's why we're getting the inflation. That's the rain to the whitewash of the fence. That's what that really is. All right, from there, we jump over to the other currencies. We go and take a look at the South African rand. With this type of action, maybe up, maybe down. You know, it could be flat. It has not. It's the more predict. It's hard to say that the metals is predicting the rand as much as I think the rand predicts the metal. So it's kind of like an insight to it. So let's just go over to the South African rand right there. Yeah, so I mean, I watched the rand to try to give us direction more than try to tell us what the direction of the rand is going to be. Right there, activate, and it's down. Okay, cool. Maybe there is hope for the product when it comes to, you know, the metals complex. Let's try this again. There we go. Another text. I'm getting hit by other people just texting me. See here, it's flirting with going into the minus. Over here on Chicago Quant, doing the same. Well, actually, it's in the sell for 3 days. So it's pressing for 3 days, and maybe we're going to get some downward action, which would be very bullish for the metals complex. Can we get that? You know, I mean, look at what the interest rates did to the metals complex. I'm still stunned, you know. Let's just look at it one more time. Right there. You know, that slam, you know, just such a hard slam. You know, interest rates moved and they just crushed it. Let's see what else I can say about all that. I guess that's about it. So that's the South African rand. I think the ruble's been moving down too. See, they do march a lot together. I noticed now that we watch both of them together. It's in the sell like that, but look at that. It gave it a pop today. Who knows what Mr. Putin said to somebody or did something, or who knows. And the end result is it's still in the weekly buy, and it's been in the daily sell since that interest rate shift. And it was holding there, and then all of a sudden they gapped it up a little bit. So I don't know what they're going to do with that. Excuse me. Now let's take a look at the yen. I heard someone mention that this morning, which was kind of cool. Always makes me feel like I'm on the right course. Yeah, I mean, that's pretty much what it comes down to. There you can see it's been on one nice long strong drive up on the dollar yen, but a little weakness here today. You can see we're in a weekly buy for 3 weeks too, right there. Let's see how it looks over here on the J4X. Right there. Yeah, look at that. Nice drive up. Lots of strength. It's at some of the highs we've seen in months upon months. I think we went back 2 days ago and looked at it. We haven't been this high in maybe as much as 2019 even. Could be that, 2018. It's been a while for it to get this high up. They're really pushing on it. Now let's take a look at it on a weekly basis. We'll go back and look and see how that looks too. Calculates. Yeah, it's a pretty wild move. That's for the way the action has been. And last time, let's make it the whole screen, J4X. And the last time we were up, there's 2018. It took out the 18 highs, and it's and went through the 2017 highs. So that is, some real juice. That is. I mean, they're really pushing it firm. Now, let's see, let's put the lines in there too. And we're getting towards the top end of the range, that's for sure. There's the top of a range there. You see here in the middle of the range, it still kept on climbing. You see it topping out here a couple times. Let's see if we start to zigzag up in here and then make new lows. That will give us some insight. This is going to finally roll over. I doubt it. And there's something about it. All right. From here, we drift over to the Mexican peso. Right there. There we go. We were thinking that maybe they would start to turn it up because it tried to get into the buy yesterday with a red and a green, but didn't make it, and now they're rolling it over again. We're in a weekly sell from here, so this is kind of curious. These sells have been incredibly long. It goes into a sell, a couple days in a buy, and sells again. In this case here, it's been in the sell ever since there. So out of this whole move, this was where you could be long and catch that nice ride. And then after that, it's been very tough. You can't really play the short side without options or something like that, solely because we're in a weekly buy. And then finally it gets into the sell here, and it's been okay, but the bulk of it is here. You can see it's all been, especially here. If we'd only gotten into a sell there, that would have been wonderful. Let's see, what else can we say about the Mexican peso? I'm not sure what is going on. I really am always confused now with Mr. Biden, because no matter what he says, it seems like they walk it back within hours or a day. So it's a really strange circumstance where you try to pay attention to the politics, the policy politics, but when he says something, it doesn't mean anything. It's a everybody's convinced here that someone's there's a cabal of the Democrats are running the party, basically. The judge just kind of walks around pretending to be president, and that's about it. Because every time, it doesn't matter what he says, they will walk it back, and he accepts it. That's the amazing thing. So in other words, he gets angry and yells at a reporter over a particular subject, and then the White House walks it back a couple hours later and says, "Oh no, the president agrees with you. You were right," and that's it. There's no other conversation about it. So there's it goes on and on like that every day. So it's very, very strange. So trying to understand policy direction, which has an influence on a lot of money, is almost non-existent at this point. And I don't know. Like I said, we saw all this big action. This whole big action came when he met up with the president of Mexico and the Prime Minister of Canada. The three of them got together, and the next thing you know, the currency exploded. So I have no idea what he promised or didn't promise, or who knows. The insiders know. That's what it comes down to. All right, let's see what else we got going on here. No questions so far today. It's been really quiet. I guess everybody's having a hard time getting going with the new year. So we'll just keep on rolling with the homies. So that completes our currencies. Now, anybody out there who would like to see a particular currency, be my guest. But you're always welcome to interrupt my, I don't know, process. And we could always go look at something in between. I have no problem doing that. So you don't have to wait to the end of the webinar to ask a question. All right. From there, what do we have here? Let's see. We go now to the metals complex. So what we'll do is we'll jump into the silver. So let's throw silver up on the J4X. Another one of our lost causes in the metals complex. How can we have inflation and not have buying in that complex? I have no idea. Let's get the daily up there. There it is right there. And let's go over to J4X at the same time. I mean, Chicago Quant. Where's that? Right there. There we go. So you see here on J4X, it's been dicey, daily, up and down, sloppy, under, above, it's just sloppy. Over here, same situation. Basically, you can see a lot of sell, buy. A couple of days of buy, sell. That's the interest rate shift. Then it's sell for a couple of days. It's not most smooth trading product. You can see we jumped into the weekly buy here last week, and it seems to be holding up very comfortably. So we keep on thinking that that could be a very positive thing. Let's see what else we got going. I guess that's about it for the silver. We can take a peek now at the copper. See what copper's doing. A lot of, remember silver is more of an industrial metal. It's a very expensive one. And there is copper. Let's put it up over here. There's copper. Copper has been jumpy. It's back into the buy, but look at it, it's underneath right there. You can see we got a red and green going on here. It's trying to climb back up from its lows today. You see here, same situation. Oh no, it's not. You can see it was jumpy, and it's now been a little trend on the upside here for a couple of days. For the last 2 days. And just the weekly, let's see what the weekly looks like on the J4X. Same situation, trying to stay in that buy. We got 3 Hinkies bars for the weekly, and we're at 2 days, 2 weeks in the buy here. So that pressure is on the upside, I guess, or sideways up. I don't know. We played the bottom end of the range, got that around 410 about 2.5 weeks ago, and now we're back up to close to 460. Which is like the highs it's been playing with for months upon months. So it keeps on dancing between the 2 ranges. We constantly say, and everybody else says all over the place, that if we're going to have all these electric vehicles, we've got to have copper. So that's the trend of it all, really. Copper has found itself in the $4 area, and it doesn't seem to let go, which is kind of interesting. I guess wonder what the ratio. Let's see, was that to silver? So it's at 10 to 1, 5 to 1, 5 to 1, 6 to 1, something like 6 to 1, right? And then when you take a look at silver, would it be 26 to 1? So, see, 10 silvers would be, no, it's way bigger than that. So, 10 silvers equates to $230. And when you're trading at 1,800, that's 8 times more, so it's like in the 80s. Yowzer. So there's no real, it would have been interesting if the 2 ratios had some relationship to them, besides being integers. Some type of, something that would stick out. But I guess not. You can't always have that arbitrage, but it's always fun to look for it. right. From there, we dance our way over to the oil sector. We'll go take a look at crude oil. Let's see, where's it at here? Let's put it up on J4X, crude oil. Right there. And there is the front month, and it's holding up. It's plus. I think it was red for a little bit there. And no, I noticed it's up about 26 cents since we last looked at it. So you can see the strength there. And then let's take a look at the back month, or what I like to call the spring crop. There's the June contract, looking just as firm, trying to lift. And that's been in a weekly buy 1 week longer than the front month. Let's see, here's J4X, right there. 2 weeks, that's a weekly, yep, 2 weeks there for the front month. Let's see what the daily looks like. Right there. Front month crop of oil versus the back month crop of oil. Alright, from there we'll jump over to the natural gas. I am amazed that it's doing so well. Here in the States, just hanging around the 3.80 area. It's $3.80, whereas in Europe it's trading at like $37. So that's pretty dramatic. You can see the sideways action. They don't seem to have any clear direction whatsoever. Just chopping along on the sideways game. Right there. That's right there. That big long sideways action. It's in the daily buy going on the second day, and it's still below, not in the weekly buy. That's the daily. Let's just take a look at it in the weekly. Right there, it's been pumping, yeah. Been a weekly sell for a while. And then from there, we go over to, let's see, what do we do from there? We have the natural gas, we have the crude, and then what we do is we take a look at, let's take a look at North Sea. That's an active contract, so there it is on a weekly basis. You would think that this is showing, like, some buying. Yep, 2 weeks in a buy right there. And at the same time, see the lines, yep. Right there. Let's see how the daily looks. A couple days in the buy there too. Same as what we're seeing when it comes to our crude oil. Right there. So they kind of move pretty well in lockstep, which is a little surprising when you hear that there's $30-some odd natural gas. You would think that they would find a way to, pull some natural gas out of those oil wells out in the North Sea. Have a valve that turns it on and off like a spigot. All right, and that pretty much does it all. Oh, you know what I want to do is, I know we don't see it on J4X, but I want to go over and take a look at platinum, because we saw that at the beginning of the week when we did look at it, it was trying to get into a buy. We were wondering if we're going to see, some weekly buy. Oh yeah, look at that right there. They're doing it again. Well, there's hope. I guess with the South African rand playing in the weekly sell, I guess the metals complex will find a way to at least stay firm. With this much inflation, I don't understand how they can't. All right, what should we call this webinar? I mean, lately the titles of these things are okay, but they have not been the best. So we got to come up with a title today for this particular webinar, and got to figure out what were we talking about. We were talking about the Turkish Lira. We were talking about the Swiss cable again. I think yesterday I said something about the cable. Or was it? No, it was interest rates yesterday. Was it interest rates? I think it was interest rates. So, cable's still strong. mean, you know, how, yeah, yesterday was 30 years sold hard. How about a bonds sideways cable firm? I think that's a pretty good one. I think that's the good one right there. Yeah. And that is the title today. All right. Well, traders, it's been a quiet day or two. I guess everybody's having a hard time getting their New Year's game on. So we will catch all of you tomorrow, same time, same channel. This is Doc from North America saying arrivederci. Happy trails to you until we meet again. I guess Cowboy wants to get out and ride in the snow, so maybe we'll go out and ride in the snow. So where did I leave off? Happy trails to you. So happy trails to you until we meet again. Happy trails to you, to all our Dukascopy friends. We will catch you tomorrow, traders. Yippee-yi-yay. Doc's heading for the horses.